Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot, and today we are doing a VR to a video put out very recently from Tara over at Cozy Core Craft, where she put together a video on, she called it the season between seasons, decks for when it doesn't feel like summer or fall. And I just thought this was so genius because I really have felt myself in such a particular deck mood, and for me it's very seasonal. I always work with my decks very seasonally, and I do find when I'm shifting around seasons there is this there's always that month where it's kind of like we're not in either or, there's really this in-between season. So I wanted to do a VR to this to show my decks that I have out right now that really feel like this transition between summer and fall where we're not really in either anymore. So let's get started. First one I have here is the, oh my gosh, what's your name? I've been working with you so much too. Okay, the Hoxa Tarot. It's the only downside sometimes of putting things in bags is I know what deck is in here. What's the title? I don't know. Anywho, I have been working with this deck tons lately. I love this one. Andy and I are currently doing a little deep dive practice with it, which is so fun. But this one feels very seasonal to right now because we still have a lot of natural world going on in these cards, but everything looks like it either already is kind of decaying, dying, and some of the images, that's what's happening, or with the coloring, that it's just kind of on the brink of it. And I feel like when I walk around in my yard and I'm looking at my gardens right now, that's really the feel, where there's plenty of things still growing, but we're in this ripening, letting go kind of stage. And I feel like that's what this deck feels like to me. Now this is one I also use, I don't know, I use this all year round. I love this deck, but it does feel very autumnal to me, but I think it really sits so well in this kind of liminal, seasonal space where we don't have either or, at least where I live. It's this cool thing of when I go around and water my plants in the morning, you can smell that fall smell. But by the time the afternoon rolls around, it can be like 80 degrees. I just think something about that, I just really like that. So that is my first pick. That's the Hoxa Tarot. Next up, the Magickal Botanical Oracle. I've been seriously loving this one. It's a bit of an ordeal to get out of the box though. I really should make the cards a bag, because I don't mind keeping books separate. Ooh, that's casting quite the shadow. You're gonna go down there. All right. So we have a botanical deck, which for me, botanical decks typically get their most showtime in the spring and summer. But for me, it's the coloring of this particular deck that makes me feel like I can carry it through fall, probably even winter, because it's just this like parchment. It makes me think of what might be in someone's grimoire or something. That's what it looks like to me. And so when I'm still in this phase of sometimes I want to use that plant energy in the same way I do in the spring and summer, but just the world around me doesn't feel like the bright and sunniness of my other plant decks. This one has just really fit the bill, and I love it so much. I'm actually looking, there's a moonflower card in here that I want to keep out. I'm filming this on the full super blue moon, and I've got my moonflowers blooming right now, and I kind of wanted to see what the cards had to say about this. There it is. How pretty. I'm gonna keep that out. I heard this cool thing about moonflowers where, because they start flowering this time of year and they only open at night. So like a magical property of it is sort of this heralding of the dark half of the year. And I just, oh my gosh, I just thought that was so cool. Anyway, Magical Botanical Oracle. Love that one. We're gonna deal with your box later. Okay. Next, we've got two mushroom decks, starting with the Midnight Magic. And again, I really am choosing these seasonally still because we are in the height of mushroom season right now. If you go on a walk in the woods, if you're somewhere where you've got like kind of that dense foresty woods, you're gonna find so many different kinds of mushrooms right now. And so I've really been loving, especially right now, to use my mushroom decks because I can see some of them around, and I think that's so cool. And what I really like about this tarot as well is it's the Midnight Magic. So again, it feels like this way to sort of start working my way back into that darker half of the year by working with these energies of growth and plant life that have adapted sort of to the nighttime. Something about that idea has been really interesting to me lately, but I love this one. I love how it gives you information on the actual mushroom in this deck. I think that's fantastic. The artwork is so gorgeous. So that is the Midnight Magic Tarot. And the other mushroom deck I've got here is the Mushroom Spirit Oracle. This is by Nicola McIntosh, who also makes the Celtic Spirit Oracle, which is one of my absolute all-time favorites. She's got another oracle coming out really soon with crystal grids. Intrigued. Anyways, it's a mushroom oracle, but a really good one. I really love her art style. I think the way she writes guidebooks is so awesome. Now, where the Celtic Spirit really feels like what it's titled, where it feels like a very spiritual experience to me. This one, the way it reads, and I feel the way the guidebook is written, is more like an everyday draw kind of deck. So it's been fun having those two different uses, two different energies from both of her decks. But again, the mushroom energy right now is just so good because it's mushroom season, baby, you know? So this one's been really, really fun. And not to mention that it just pairs really well because of this kind of parchmenty background again. It pairs super well with so many decks, so really liking using that right now. That's the Mushroom Spirit Oracle. Next, we've got the Mystic Masters Tarot. This deck always feels kind of summery to me, but also not really. And now I've realized that this is if I was gonna put it in a season, it feels like this liminal space between summer and autumn. And I think it's because we've got so many of these rich jewel tones or just bright reds and oranges that it's sort of like this, there's this brightness to it, but like a deepening brightness that's making me think of like, I don't know, like how my rose bush is looking coming to the end of its season, or things starting to fade just a little bit. Like there is this interesting darkness to this deck as well. And I just think the mixture of the colors here, and also to say that these kind of, these decks that use sort of found art in a sense, where like we've got the underlayer of this found art of, what's the term, like classical artwork? I don't know what the right word is, but I think you know what I mean. I've got a lot of decks like that. I love art decks, found art decks, but I do tend to more heavily use them in the fall and winter. So I think that also makes it feel like a really good deck for me to kind of transition into fall time. It's got that energy. Like, to me, it really feels like if I was putting this deck into months, it'd be like August, September, and then coming out again in November almost. I don't know. There's something about it, but that is the Mystic Masters Tarot. Okay, now going on that same vein, the Golden Tarot. This makes me think of that golden kind of sunlight we get this time of year. Where things are starting to kind of yellow and brown a little bit, but we still have this somewhat intense sunlight, and it just casts this like perfect golden glow on things. And I think that's what makes me lean towards this deck during this time of year, because of all the gold tones. There's this like warmth to it that I'm just usually really feeling this time of year. To me, that like end of August, early September has this real like gold tone to it. So that is the Golden Tarot. All right, so we've got 3 more to look at here. Next up, the Lord of the Rings Tarot. I don't know if I have that much of an explanation. I feel like for me, when I choose things seasonally, a lot of the times I'm looking at the coloring, and I think that's just what the case is for this one. But also, you know, it's based on Lord of the Rings, a fantasy story, and this time of year I really find myself start craving story again, like magical, fantastical story. And this is always the time of year where I get back into reading, because spring and summer, I don't read. And I think it's just because the energy in the air, it just makes it extra hard for me to sit still. And so I've just kind of, I don't know, I've started to accept that about myself, but now I feel myself getting the urge to read again. And so I think this deck just makes me think of that as well. Because when I'm reading, I want to, it's similar to tarot where like I want to be transported to a magical world. That's what I want out of reading. Most of the books I read have to do with magic, dragons, witches, fairies. And I love it. And I love this deck. It really is so good. I don't even know what I love about it so much. But I just love how it's like this like block print artwork. It's got such a cozy feel to it that I really appreciate. And these backs, again, it's that like golden glow on the things that are still, some things are still green, some things aren't. I don't know. I just think it fits the vibe. So that's the Lord of the Rings Tarot. Only thing I don't love is the guidebook unfolds like this. It's huge. But also, that makes it a little bit fun, doesn't it? It does. I'll give it that. Alright, next, the Rain Shadow Tarot. This just, it's been the vibe. It's been the vibe lately. And I think it's because in this deck, Claire Mack uses a lot of deeper tones. So where, you know, her decks always have a natural world theme. But I felt this, or I feel the same about her first oracle, the Illuminated Earth, where because it uses these deep tones, we get a lot of these like dark grays. It feels like it lands more in the darker half of the year for me. But we do get so many botanicals, and like this scene here, like that looks like a summer storm. And so it feels a bit transitional in that way. Got the roses. The one I tend to use in the spring and summer is the Faceted Garden, because we've just got like lighter pastel tones in that. that to me feels really true spring summer, where this lands more towards the illuminated earth, where I think it's gonna really come out to shine in the darker half of the year, but I've been using it a lot more lately because it really does have that transitional aspect too. Look at that. Because right now it's like I'm craving darker decks that are darker in tone, but not necessarily, I love this card, isn't that beautiful? Not necessarily darker in theme quite yet like I do once October hits. I want those spooky decks. So that is the Rain Shadow Tarot. I've got one more to show you here. And that is the Forhaxa Tarot. Now this is definitely because it's fairy themed, which is an energy I work with all year round, but it ramps up undeniably in the spring and summer. But again, because of the deeper tones used in this deck, it always lands for me in this like late summer, early fall energy. I use it throughout the fall and winter as well, but because again, we've got a lot of blooms and growing going on as well, it does feel really transitionary. I love the artwork in this deck. I think MJ Culline's artwork tends to just feel kind of fall and winter to me, but I've been loving this one right now because it feels like the perfect mix of summer and fall in here. Look at that. Oh, it's so good. It pairs really well with the Seasons of the Witch Oracles. I've tried it now with both the Beltane and the new Mabon, and it's so good, and I feel like that just proves the point even more. So, that, my friends, is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you're using in this kind of transitionary period of seasons. And other than that, I hope you're having a great week so far, and I'll see you again very soon.